Hello, and welcome to this episode of Be the Wolf. Now, if you are anything like me, you have been overwhelmed by your to do list on more than one occasion. You have spun all the things that you have to do in your head over and over to the point where it feels overwhelming. Like there is so much you have to do that you can't possibly get done. And then when you write down what you have to do, it's like three things. Now, this was the way I lived for much of my life. And I always wanted to finish that list because in my mind, I could see how I could get all of the things done. But when it came to actually doing them, I wasn't able to complete it as quickly as I wanted to, as easily as I wanted to. And it just didn't work the way I fucking wanted it to. And even when I did complete my list, I wouldn't feel that overwhelming sense of completion. Sure, every time I checked a box, I felt a little bit better, but I didn't feel like the way I thought finishing my list would feel. And so I would think of more things that I needed to do because I was always thinking of more things that I needed to do. This doesn't work the way it's supposed to, so I must do this other thing. And so to dos, they stacked. It was never ending. And of course, life is never ending. But if you've ever felt like that, like the to do list is overwhelming and it never feels like you get a break, this episode is going to be for you. If you've done all the things, all the time management things and scheduled things and tried all these different routes of how to make it easier, how to be more organized, how to be more efficient. If you've tried all the things, but you're still left feeling like there's too much fucking shit to do, this episode is going to be for you. Now, I'm speaking about this because this was the life that I lived. This is where I lived all of the fucking time. There's going to be a lot of fucks in this episode because fuck. If you've been feeling that overwhelm, you understand the fucks. So I'm going to start by telling you a story because all this stuff, it comes from somewhere, right? There's a place, there's a source of where that overwhelm comes from, that need to get the to-do list done and need to do more than anybody else and need to keep going no matter what. And there's a place, there's a reason why all of that stuff is going on inside of you. And maybe it's just been such a part of you that you didn't even know it was possible to be different. If that's the case, this episode is for you. Maybe it's been such a part of you that you don't even know that anything else is possible. I know for me, that's how it was. I didn't know that was separate from who I am. That was something that could be addressed, and it wasn't just the way it is, that it's something that could be dealt with and it's something that could be shifted. And my experience of always feeling like I have so much to do could be different, that I could be free of that. You see, I never knew that was possible. And so if that sounds like you, this episode is for you. So let me start with a story. There I am, gazing, peering under the door, hoping, waiting for just a sliver of light to come through because it was dark in there. Now, if you've ever woken up in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep and you tossed and turned just waiting for the day to come so that you could finally get up because you couldn't sleep, you understand that feeling. Just waiting for the sliver of daylight to come under the door, but this was a little bit different. You see, I was waiting because I knew that when the light came under the door, that soon I would be free. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me just tell you. So when I was little, and if you've been listening to me for a while, you might know that my childhood was a little bit on the tumultuous side. I'm being facetious. It was a lot on the tumultuous side. For me, in some ways, it feels a bit normal, but it was, for most people's accounts, it was pretty crazy. But here I am. Every night when my mom went to work, she would send me down the street to the babysitter's house, and I would spend the night. And the babysitter, she was not very nice. Her kids, also not very nice. And so when it was time to go to bed and we would all go upstairs to go into the room, the kids, the boy and the girl, they would tag team me. They would jump on me and they would tie me up and throw me in the closet. But you see, I was a magical little kid. I had access to something pretty special, something that I think all kids have access to in their own way, their own unique gifts and superpowers. But as you grow up and you learn that things aren't possible, or you are told that things aren't possible, or you learn that's not the way it should be, that we dampen down some of those magical powers. And I'm not talking about being able to teleport or something like that, though. That could be possible for somebody. I don't know. But for me, I was really smart. I was super good at spatial awareness. And I was really good at figuring things out. So these kids, they would tie me up and they would lock me in the closet, and somehow I would wiggle my way out of it every fucking time. And I would open the closet door with exuberant energy, so proud of myself because I broke free. I'm free. They didn't like the fact that I was free because they would jump on me again and they would kick me a little harder and they would tie those ropes a little tighter and they'd throw me back in the closet. And what would I do? I'd wiggle my way out of it, open the door. Hello, I'm free. And they wouldn't like it. Oh boy, did they not like it. So they'd kick a little harder. They'd throw a pillow over my face. They'd gag me. They'd tie the ropes tighter, throw me in the closet. And I told their mom, but their mom didn't believe me. I told my mom that I didn't like going to that house, but my mom sent me back night after night. And so I did something different. I decided I was trapped because in reality, I was, by ropes or not rope, but I was in this situation where if I broke free from the ropes, then the pain would be greater than if I stayed in the ropes. And so this night, as I lay there looking under the door jamb, waiting for the light, I was still in the ropes, hands tied behind my back, feet tied to my hands, pencil sticking out of my ankle because the boy, he got mad at something. He tripped on the pencil, picked it up, stabbed me with it. And fun fact, that is my first tattoo. I lead created circle from a pencil stabbing when I was little. So I'm there, I'm trapped, and I don't know, honestly, if they just got so good at tying those ropes that I couldn't break free, or if I decided that it was better to stay tied up. I sure as hell knew it was better to stay in the closet because I had broken free from the ropes and I stayed in the closet. But man, those kids were mad in the morning when they saw me, and I paid for it the next night. So I don't know if I just learned to stay in the ropes and believe and convince myself that I was trapped because it was safer. I don't know. But what I do know is that I have held on to that feeling of being trapped, of believing that I was trapped over and over in my life. And that wasn't the first time I felt trapped. That wasn't the first time I acquiesced to the feeling of being trapped. When I was 4, 5, I used to run away. 6 years old, I used to run away. I would leave the house for hours on end. I would go down to the industrial section of town and run around, and I felt free. So fucking free until I got hungry, until it got dark and I got a little scared, until I realized, oh shit, I don't know how to take care of myself. I don't know how to get food. I don't have any money. That paper thing that they trade for food and other things. So I would go home. Nobody noticed that I was gone, but home was not a safe place for me. It was not happy, but for some reason it seemed safer than out there, out there where I didn't know how to get food, where I didn't know what was lurking in the corners when the night was night. So I felt trapped. I can't leave. If I stay, it's not great. I did all the things to make my stay as good as possible. I people pleased. I got really good at my empathic nature so I could feel whether my mom was in a good state or a bad state. I know whether to hide or whether to say, I'm hungry. It was never a good idea for me to say I'm hungry, though. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so that feeling of being trapped was something that came with me from the time I was young. And I know everybody has had that experience at least once or twice where you have stepped into a situation where all the choices that you see that are available are not so great. It's a lesser of two evils situation. And so, you could think we see it in the movies all the time, right? It's like, oh, somebody kidnaps your loved one and they ask you for all your money and you don't want to give up all your money, but you want your loved one back because you don't want them to hurt your loved one. And so it's this no-win situation. You lose all your money or you lose your loved one, and hopefully they choose the loved one, but maybe they don't. It doesn't matter. But either way, you try and choose the lesser of two evils, but you feel trapped. You don't feel like there's another choice. You don't feel like there's something that could be different. You feel trapped. And so you might have this experience, right? Voting, I think, is often a thing. Like you don't really like either candidate, but you choose the lesser of two evils, right? That's a small version of it. And so that feeling of being trapped creates this dynamic, and depends on how often you felt that no-win situation in your life. If it continuously happened a lot, you probably formed these beliefs that you are trapped, just like I felt like I was trapped. And what you don't realize is that stuff lives in your subconscious and it drives the way you move through the world. Whenever you doubt yourself, whenever you get stuck in a level emotion, some of these old feelings come up. And so I know for me, that would happen a lot. There would be things I wanted to do. I wanted to break free from those ropes. I wanted to get out of that house, get out of that closet. That's what I wanted. But I learned that it was not good. I learned that what I wanted came with consequences, that the ropes would be tighter, that the consequences would be bad. So don't do what you want. Don't lean into what you want. Don't lean into what is the most natural for you. That's what I learned. I learned that doing what I want, I learned that freedom came with consequences. Freedom came with tighter chains, tighter ropes, physical mental, emotional consequences. And so you as a little kid, as an adult, as a teenager, maybe have learned the same thing, that your freedom to be you and to do what you want came with consequences. So you decided there are things you needed to do. I have to go to college. I have to get a good job. I have to do a 401k. I have to give to charity. I have to be nice. I have to, and it all feels like fucking obligation. Because the consequence of you doing what you want doesn't feel good. The consequence of what you perceive will happen if you do what you want feels dangerous, feels scary, feels like it's not going to be good. And so here you are choosing again, just like I have chosen again over and over again. I choose the trapped version of me being in the ropes and the chains instead of doing what I want, the freedom, breaking free. And I chose it when I was little because it was a smart decision. The problem is I kept choosing it over and over again. So not that long ago, I was looking at my calendar and it's this wall of all these things. It's fucking full. There is no space in it. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst. I have so many things to do. And it slides me into this feeling of there's so many things I need to do. I have to. And I'm looking at it and fuck. All of a sudden, I realized I feel trapped. I feel trapped by this wall of obligation on my computer screen, on my calendar. I feel just like I felt in that closet. And the thing is, like I said, when I was in that closet, this particular memory, I don't know if I could have gotten out. Chances are I probably could have. I got out every other time. But this time I chose to believe that I couldn't, that I was stuck in that place, in this wall of obligation. So I'm looking at my calendar, this wall of what I perceive to be an obligation, and I feel trapped. I feel like I'm stuck in that closet, tied up again. And what I realized in that moment, it's like, holy shit, I'm not trapped at all. In fact, everything on my calendar, everything on my to-do list is a want to. But I still have this unresolved thing about being trapped inside of me. And yes, it's not so bad compared to what it used to be. But what happens is every time I stretch a little bit bigger into more of what I want, more freedom, more joy, more love, every time I step bigger and expand more into more of who I am, I run the risk of feeling like I'm going to be trapped because that old scenario loops in my head. And it's not just that one, it's every time, it's the time that I sung my heart out in music class and then the teacher shamed me. It's the time that I said that thing that I really wanted to, and everybody looked at me cockeyed. So I learned when I step into more of who I am, which is essentially peace, love, joy, and freedom, because that's who each one of us is. Just our own version, our own perception of peace, love, joy, and freedom. When I'd step into more of that, that my nervous system would freak out and think the consequences were coming. And that's something that I have unwound from my nervous system. But every time I step a little bit higher, I have to face it again a little bit. Not the way I used to have to face it. It's almost like there's an imprint that gets activated every time I step a little more into me. That feeling, that propensity, like, oh shit, what happens if I actually access the freedom that I want? What's going to come as a consequence? And it used to keep me in a spiral for months, years, even weeks. Oh my God, I have to do. And like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I mean, my fucking goodness. When people used to ask me the question, when people used to say, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be? I would say, without hesitation, I would stop time. Why would you stop time, Genea? Oh, I would stop time because then I could get all the things I needed to get done. Now, if you remember during the pandemic, a lot of people didn't have to work for a period of time. And there was all this time to get all those things that you've had on your to do list done. But most people didn't get those things done because it's never been about the fucking time. It's been about feeling like you're trapped. Or at least for me, it was about feeling like I was trapped. I have to do this. I have to finish the book. Because even though now I have all this time and this so called freedom, I still was creating that feeling of being trapped because being trapped was safer historically than being free. And so as I'm looking at that wall of obligation on my calendar and I realize in a short period of time, no more weeks, months, years, I realize, oh, I'm just doing that thing that I do. I'm just feeling trapped because I'm afraid that the freedom is going to come with consequences. And so all I had to do was breathe into the feeling of freedom within me. And for me, that means creating space in my chest and opening my heart, connecting deeper to who I am, just breathing. And then all of a sudden, everything on that to-do list, everything on that calendar, that solid wall with very little white space in it, started to feel like a wall of joy. Because as I said before, everything on my calendar is things that I want to do, things that I love to do. But I just had to remind myself that having a lot of things to do doesn't mean I'm trapped. Because that was the way I perpetuated the story, having a lot of things to do and being overwhelmed and staying in that place, because stepping into all of the things that I want to do, like break free from those ropes, historically came with consequences. And so for me, I had to remember that freedom comes from inside of me. You see, the thing I didn't understand when I was tied up in that closet door, those closets, yeah, when I was tied up inside the closet, is that I could have just accepted the fact that, yes, I can break free from these ropes. And right now I'm going to choose to stay tied up because it's safer, instead of convincing myself that I was trapped. I could have had a more conscious decision about it. And the reason I couldn't have that conscious decision at that time was because there was so much unprocessed emotional content that I wasn't able to access the choice of, I can leave these ropes on my body and still be free. You know, I think about the people who survived the Holocaust. And I think that one of the things that many of them did is they maintained this sense of autonomy inside of themselves, where even though I'm in this situation, these people cannot choose how I am to feel, that I get to choose how I feel, that I get to feel free in the face of a wall of obligation, in the face of people torturing other people. I can feel free in the face of whatever good or not so good thing is around me. And when I do that, my calendar for me turns from a wall of obligation to a wall of joy. Does it even feel like a wall? It doesn't even feel like a wall. It feels like a sea of joy. I can be okay in the face of this concentration camp. And I'm not saying that this is easy or even if I could do it, but I can see how many of the people who survived actually did this. They felt free inside. They felt joy. They felt love. They felt peace inside. And that's a big piece of why they were able to survive and go on and create lives where they thrived. And not that those situations were great, because they weren't. Being tied up in a closet was not great. But had I had the understanding and had I processed those overwhelming emotions, had I had access to a higher frequency, had I remembered or known that the feeling of freedom comes from within me, then it would have been different. It could have been different. And so now here I am telling you the story about the closet. And yes, I couldn't access that feeling of freedom inside of me at that moment. But I can now, and I can use this story to remind me of what it feels like to be free. And I can use this story to perhaps light a spark inside of you that allows you to feel a little bit of free. That when you look at your to-do list and you can figure out, like, wait, how do I feel free inside? Do I breathe? Do I give myself space inside? What is it that I need to do to feel free? What helps me to feel free? Is it going for a run? Is it dancing? How can I do something that makes me feel free? And then once I feel free, then look at my to-do list. And you might just see that some of those things on there you don't even need to do. And the ones that you do need to do, if you do them while feeling that feeling of freedom, that overwhelm, it won't be there. That you'll be able to be present and move through it more efficiently, more effectively, faster. And you might say, well, I don't have fucking time to let myself feel free. I have to get all this shit done. You can do that if you want. But I promise you, if you can take the time to get into a place of freedom, to a place of joy, to some other emotion that feels expansive, whatever you work on will be more effective. The outcome of it will be more effective. That I can promise you. And it will take practice. And if you have a lot of emotional content and a lot of stress and a lot of that, maybe there's more things that you need to do. And you're like, oh shit, more. Tell me that I have more things I need to do. Well, the more things that you need to do are about what you need to do to get yourself in a frequency, an emotional state of expansion, not contraction. And so maybe you meditate, maybe you sing, maybe you do some of those things that you got in trouble for as a kid, those things that you exercise those aspects of yourself that you stuffed away. Maybe you reclaim them, become more of who you are, and know that as you do that, stress may come back. But remember, it's just a story that's trying to keep you safe. I believed I was trapped in the closet because that was what kept me safe. But I'm not fucking trapped anymore, and you're not fucking trapped anymore either. So, what are you going to do today to remind yourself that you're free? Because you are. And if you can't access that feeling, then reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Because doing more, getting more done, it doesn't create freedom. All it does is open the gateway for you to see what else there is to do. I mean, fuck. I never celebrated any wins because as soon as I won, as soon as I reached the goal, I saw 18 million more things I needed to get done. And I don't know about you, but that sure as hell feels like being trapped. The key to feeling free is being willing to do what it takes to feel free inside, because then the decisions you make create more freedom from a feeling of freedom. Feel more joy inside because the decisions you make from a feeling of joy create more joy. But if you have this propensity to slide back into the feeling trapped in the fear and all of the other contractive negative emotions, sadness, shame, guilt, all of that stuff, if that is your pattern, you're going to be in a perpetual loop of creating more and more of that. And that perpetual loop is not a ride that most of us want to be on. So if you want to get off that ride, reach out to me. You can do that via social media, via my website at Genea Barnes, everywhere, Genea Barnes, or the website is Be the Wolf Now. And remember, when you operate from the truth of who you are, this is what I'm talking about, stepping into more of the peace, love, joy, freedom that is who you are at your core. Before you decided silly things like I'm trapped, I'm not good enough, or I'm not capable, or whatever it is that's in your way of feeling those feelings. When you operate from the truth of who you are, humanity evolves. It's not just for you. It's for all of us. All right. I'll see you next time on Be the Wolf.